So I would say that since I live in a place where the BBCs have not touched yet, I would say that, and so I have to fill a lot of gap in between time, and so my reactions to it was like, I don't know, there's a lot of swearing when I was watching it. So yeah, it's I would say it's non-stop uh toe jumping, okay, and also what the hell is that? And why nothing happened? Who are that people? And so is that thing still a thing? And why it still scare me to and also what that's it's like a medley of everything that fan would have to ask for on their worst nightmare before it's 2 months before Christmas. So something like that. That's my reaction, that's my feeling for it. And I would say that. And the Sontaran. Yeah.
Yep, so I mean, a lot of people were saying that there wasn't a lot of build-up to this series, that we weren't getting a lot of trailers. But I think we've just got the best trailer ever for this upcoming series of Flux, which is due to premiere, I think, on the 6th of November. This episode, it was like just a big trailer of this series called Flux. It wasn't, like an actual episode that contained a lot of story in its own right. But I still enjoyed it. It still made me anticipate a lot for this upcoming series and this upcoming story in that way. It had, like, a lot of people talk about how in like New Who episodes that the pre-credit title sequence would be like an episode 1 for like an old Doctor Who serial, and that was what this feeling was. It was cranking back to doing that sort of thing. All of this felt like it could have been a pre-title sequence, just with all the information kind of scattered through it. So there was two elements there of it was like the best trailer ever for this upcoming series, but also so little story that could have been condensed into a pre like title sequence as well. But I enjoyed most of those elements, and they were elements that were, not shying away from trying to be bold in what this whole expansive idea was. It was generally quite a really good threat, and that was quite well written. So yeah, I enjoyed how it was set out, but it could have maybe done with more story than plot.
Yes, I kind of agree with that. I think it was a lot of setup, this episode. It wasn't a lot of meaty stuff. I mean, they kind of covered up by saying the action sequence at the beginning where they're trying to escape from being hanging upside down in the acid sea is probably the way of them saying, oh, we did have action, but it was a lot of setup there, setting up a lot of the characters that we've got in there. We'll go into the characters in more detail. I actually agree. I think it was more a trailer than anything else. Don't get me wrong, it was enjoyable 50 minutes to watch, and it kept going at a massive pace, but it didn't develop much. The only development we had is effectively that the Carvanista is the saviour of John Bishop, or Dan's character. That's all we really found out. There wasn't really much to that, the basis of the Flux, and there's a lot of setup on this one. I think that's going to be an interesting development, and see how they work it, because this is the first time, obviously, in the series since it came back, where they've done such a long episodic format. So it'll be interesting to see how much of the old Who comes in the elements here with the way they set things up, and how much of the classic, of the modern Who comes into it. It's difficult to tell. It really is difficult to tell, and I've said that myself in my own personal stuff to people. So I get why you guys are saying I don't know what's happening here 100% yet, because it is a lot of setup in my eyes, definitely.
No, yeah, like that point as well about how not old fashioned, but in cranking back to old Who. I would say it was just cranking back to old TV in some ways, like that end shot. Where we're having like the montage of every strand that we've had so far. It might as well just have like you have been watching, like it was an episode of like Have You Been Served or something like that.
That's Arby.
Yeah, to like reminisce about who we've had so far in this story, to remind you, as a roll call. So it was, it felt very oddly traditional in a lot of ways for general television from the old times.
For me, I feel like it's as a debut in anticipation, and they will kind of like explore each point more in like through like what's the word, like subsequent like episodes. It's kind of like something that you can see in the a lot in Doctor Who, and also I just hope that they close all the point this time. I mean, sometimes they just like, oh, we're gonna talk about this thing later, and then like that, because they introduce so many stuff in this this new arc, and then like and there's like I don't know, like it's still too early for me to say that, okay, what's gonna be the next thing that they would face. And by the way, that guy, like what's it called, like Carvanista?
The Carvanista, yeah.
I thought he's a Wookiee.
He's a good boy, that's for sure. He's a good boy.
It's like, it's suddenly it's like, for a moment I thought that there would be like Harrison Ford jump out and then like, hey Chewie, something like that. It's like, and then I realized that, oh, it's Doctor Who, and that's another way, that's another universe, or maybe it's the same. But yeah, it's kind of like I know it's like I would think about half of like audience pleaser, or like a way to gain the momentum for the comeback at the end of the year. And also, but I just feel that there's more that I want to see from the subsequent episodes. And also like not to be hanged like this like this like all the time, like because it's I don't feel that it's when you introduce a new thing, and then you also want to explore the old issues at the same time, and then like I like it, but I also don't like it when I have to like think back and say, is that going to be something from like a those deep day black and white times, like, or it's going to be like, since it mentions that it's something from the past, it might be some parts that it's so far away that some fan or some people will have to dig it deeper, or like maybe left out even. Someone like me that I catch on the New Who first, and then like it's painful for me to like look back through all the things that from the 60s, from the 70s, like and then everyone's gonna be like, oh, that's thing. And so I was like, what's that? I don't know. So it's kind of feeling for me for that point.
To be fair, there is only one element I would say is harking back to classic series at the moment. That's the Sontarans. The bit you're talking about the Doctor's history and not remembering stuff, that element with the swarm. I'm assuming that's what you're meaning. That sequence, that psyche sequence that she's with them. I think that's more to do with the more recent Timeless Child arc than anything else. I don't think that's going as far back as a story that William Hartnell did, and this guy was in it in the background or something like that. I don't think it's going that far. That's my personal opinion of it at the moment, to be fair.
Yeah, like I think that's a good point as well. But if you were not a fan, if you're just hearing Doctor Who's back, you've not really watched it for a few years, and you watch the now, what would you make of this? Because not just from this being a more serialized story, but there's so many strands and so many things that you were thinking, would someone who's not even just up for the old series, but if you didn't know about the Timeless Child stuff, because I wrote down all these strands, I'm like, some people just not like concrete on with it, like the division, just even the Weeping Angels being back, would people be like, oh, they're back, or would they know what they were still? Like you say with the Sontarans, the drama between Yaz and the Doctor and the tension, it kind of feels out the blue for even for some folk, let alone like new people joining in, trying to figure out a bit more about her. So it'll be interesting. This is the complete opposite of, say, a few seasons ago where there was perfect jumping on points that they love to make, like with season 10. And now we're at this kind of deep, bogged down bit, as it were, in the season because there's so much strands that connect in this season.
I mean, you're going to have a lot of strands anyway. That's the nature of the era because just the way it's all been set up. And it's the same with the Moffat and Russell T Davies era. There were strands that tied up right in the last season, like before. The only one I've noticed that's kind of established what they are from the Office in this one is the Weeping Angels. The whole premise of the Weeping Angels was explored in this one. The don't blink element and everything else, that was explored. So it could establish for a new person what they are and what they do. I have a funny feeling that the girl who's got that back, Claire, I think she's gone back to the 1820s with the guy digging the tunnels. I think that's where she's got to. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I think she might have gone because obviously they sat people back in time. So that's possibly where it comes from. But that's my foreknowledge coming out there. Sorry, Anthony.
Who do you think Claire is? I'm intrigued by some people's ideas of her. I genuinely was thinking this is some form of like Doctor. Like, she was giving me a lot of future Doctor who doesn't quite know she's the Doctor yet vibes. Similar to like Roof Doctor.
I think she's just at the moment I'm getting the opinion she's just a random that's met the Doctor the wrong way round and met the Doctor further into the story than what we can see so far. She may very well be a unit representative or some sort of thing like that. She might be a Linda representative, you never know. But at this stage, it's too early to tell exactly what or who she is. But there's obviously a backstory there. They've established that from the very first scene she had. Oh, you haven't met me yet. It's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. She's in the future somewhere. But I'm not thinking she's not another Roof Doctor. I don't think it's going that far. Although I understand why you're thinking that, because there's so many Roof Doctor events the past couple of series. I get that. Speaking of Roof Doctor events, the Swarm, the way he revived himself and that. What do you think about his character? Because he's obviously the big bad in this series. How do you think he's going to go along? And what do you think his history with the Doctor actually is?
Oh, you say there's like so many Roof Doctor moments in the past seasons. There's been so many Roof Doctor moments in this episode. Like, not just with the Swarm, but I'm trying to remember the other partner to the Swarm. I can't remember their name. But like that moment when they're in the Arctic Circle and she smashes the device that comes in about emergencies and they're in the bed at night time and he walks in, the Swarm walks in and does the like Thanos stuff. And I was like, what's this relation that they have going on? Like this person that's looking after them? Because, you know, the Swarm was a prisoner by probably the Division, judging from like the gun and all this and what they were saying. But this person was just in a house in the Arctic somehow. And that was giving me, again, more Roof Doctor vibes of this person perhaps looking after this prisoner and that prisoner not knowing that they're a prisoner in that way. But it wasn't developed in that same way that the Roof Doctor was.
Yeah.
But quite what they are, no idea. It's like, I'm assuming it's, again, Roof Doctor era, like pre-Heart and whatever sort of malarkey that was happening during the Division times. But the regeneration-y elements for when the Swarm regenerated in the cell, I don't know if that might be even an element that might be tying in as an origin for where the Timeless Child comes from. That isn't Gallifrey, if that's, you know, if they can just magically transform themselves to a different body, because it did seem like a different face. Like the first Swarm and the one that we then saw regenerated, as it were, seems like two different people. So it could be something as an origin for the Doctor even, but that would be a bit too bold, I think, from Chip.
Yeah, I think the cast list indicates there's two men playing the Swarm, so I think you might be right in that assumption, to be fair. I want to go back to something that Rhea said in the initial opening statement. She said she had a lot of swearing moments. Can you please elaborate on that a little bit, please, Rhea? Because I'm interested to find out what you mean by swearing.
Well, I swear a lot. That's I learned from Glasgow. I'm sorry. I mean, cause like, I would say that, for example, for a moment that when, okay, First of all, I always swear whenever there's a weeping angel, because I really, 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 really have like, I would say it's like a phobia for it. That would be so. That's I'm kind of like, I have to be careful when I watch the subsequent, like the future episodes, just in case that there will be digging deeper into that thing, because like it's horrible enough that I have to go to one of the office in where I work, that the owner of that office, she collects angels. So you have like, I'm not talking about a few trinkets. I'm talking about hundreds of something that looks like the weeping angels in disguise, like all around. So that's actually what I mean, that it's really like what happened, just a moment, but it's enough to set me chill. But that's probably the only chill that I have the whole thing. But then it's also like it's, for me, several points of the story of the episode is like a trap for you to stray. I know. I mean, I try to not go into the story too much, just in case someone stumble upon it. But like, it's just you go through, you have a zigzag moment in how you watch the episode, and then like as I would always like think back or just pause it, and then like, okay, is that thing mentioned before? Did I miss that? Because like I have a tendency to feel like am I missing something from the picture or not? So it's kind of like when that thing clicked, that's for me. That's another moment to swear. So there's nothing like that. But by the way, I wonder. Okay, just help. Just fill me in here. Is there any past mention of the swarm before? That I might miss something.
No,
Hmm.
there isn't. And your thought about saying, have I missed something when I'm watching something? This is the first episode of a new series. A lot of the stuff we've seen on screen is hopefully going to be resolved throughout the next 5 episodes. So at this stage, I probably personally wouldn't have been so off about not seeing or not hearing or knowing about things that are happening on screen, because that's drama at the end of the day. You want to find out as the drama develops. So. But I understand your background history with Doctor Who. I get that, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. It's just been quite so long as I finally decided to like jump back to Doctor Who, and so like I still have some. I have to say I have some like episodes from like previous seasons to catch up, and it's coming up. But so that's why I still have to feel something like, okay, who's that person? Who's that companion? I try to fill the gap between that by in a way spoiling myself, but just to have the whole picture. So yeah, it's I mean like yeah, it's not easy.
That's cool. Well, talking about characters and companions and doctors and things like that. What do you two think about the relationship between Yaz and the Doctor now? Because it seems to have developed a little bit since we last spoke to them. And I don't know if it's just an element of Jodie and Mandip Gill's friendship coming out a bit more in the relationship in the scripts now or not, or whether it's just happens to be the fact that Chris Chibnall said, oh, I've only got 2 to write for. I can actually write a bit more now. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the relationship between them and how Dan would actually come into it and actually mixing up again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the latter. Like, they just haven't had time for Yaz, because they haven't had any time for many of the companions, because there were too many of the companions there to just focus solidly on them. And when they did try to, I think it was Can You Hear Me? It really works to just have that single focus. Like, I can imagine having that episode with just Yaz as the companion for that season. You'd have got so much more time to just focus on her, rather than having 2 people just dragging away in the background. So that's what this helped to do as well, was just them having an actual relationship, because we haven't properly had time to develop and let them like react to each other in a lot of situations, like in the TARDIS, and even the fractures that would have. Like, I don't want to say that Yaz is suffering from like final season companion syndrome, where suddenly she's from kind of pseudo unaware companion to knows everything, can fix stuff and figure out these booby traps that are like ninefold on this wee thing, and she's basically like a second Doctor, and so that will be her downfall in some way. But that's the style it was going for, I think, and why that tension's rising between her and the Doctor, and why like the Doctor was being, people were saying like mean, I guess, to her by saying, well, we've had a good time, why are you complaining now? But I guess it's because she's not been the happy Doctor that she pretends to be, and why people, with like David Tennant would say, oh, he was a nice happy Doctor and never complained about anything to the companions, and was thinking Jodie Whittaker was going to do the same. So she at least isn't doing that. She's, still being confrontational to people and wanting to keep her own secrets to her own companions still. But I don't know how much Dan will mix into that. He seems nice, pleasant old man has been ticked off again this season. He seemed too good. Like, I don't know if he was trying to like ride home so much about him being good, like does guide tours around Liverpool, and he just does it out of the goodness of his own heart, and he just wants everyone to smile around Liverpool. And he does the food bank, and he's really nice to the trick-and-treaters, and so he's meant to be this super super nice man. And I'm like, okay, that's a fine enough character trait, but I don't know what else he's got going on. I'm happy he had time to be an actual character, because we didn't get that with like Bradley Walsh. We didn't get 10 minutes at the beginning of Woman Who Fell to Earth of him playing cards and being like a wee geezer. So I'm happy we got that at least from Dan.
Since I'm in the process of knowing Jazz myself, and I will just like speak from the point that I feel. So it's I agree. I'm totally agree with can I call you Anthony? Because like, I guess okay. Yeah, agree on that. And when there are so many things going on, and at the same time, there are more than one companion with him. So I would be keen to see the future interactions between them, and how so, because I don't know, I feel that Dan has something that I don't know if I can trust him to do something right in the future, because you cannot, oh God, like they have to make something wrong first before they can do something right, or they will just be left along the way.
No, just like on that point, I didn't realise really until that thing. I've not really thought about him as a male companion and how that relates to, say, other male companions, and how he did have a little, like, almost like Jamie moment in this story. And I would love if he, became like a Jamie, like a Scouse old Jamie for, 6 episodes, because that'd be lovely. Like, it was a moment where he's broken out of the cell and they're going out to the front. And he's just like he's shouting at him that he's not going to be his pet or whatever. And like, Gaz is just like, we're going to do that silently. Like, why did you come in so brashly? And it was just like, maybe that's what he's going to be. He's going to be this, valiant, like super, like moralistic guy who's going to be brave and stand up to folk. Kind of like Jamie, but might do it a bit dumb. So that would be a really good companion for just a wee bit. If he's got that simplistic, like, nature and character arc to him.
So there, you've heard it first, guys. Anthony Carroll thinks that Dan is going to be a dumb Jamie McCrimmon. There we are. But we're almost done. We had a good chat about the story so far. Just a couple of points I want to just go across very quickly. The writing, I think, is slightly improved from previous when it comes to Chris Chibnall related scripts. I have said on various forms of camera, I'm not a great fan of Chris Chibnall as a writer for Doctor Who. I think because he's gone an episodic format and that's where his strength is, because he's obviously good with that with Broadchurch and things like that. I think this is where the strength is coming in to start this episode. But the dialogue's still a little bit clunky. I mean, I love the Nitro 9 line, well, when they're hanging from the acid, and I love a couple of the other jokes and lines that are in it, but it doesn't seem as free-flowing or as fun or as Moffat or Russell would have written for their main stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's very heavy. Like, it's dialogue heavy scenes, it feels. You have a lot just being said all the time throughout the episode. Because I guess he just wants to say so much, but he doesn't need to do that. There's snappier ways to do some of this, but it can get very heavy if it's like a one-to-one like conversation in certain scenes as well that they haven't. So yeah, it's that. It's also him trying to attempt some of the tropes of others, like with humour, with the Sontarans. I wasn't a big fan of the you look disgusting part because it just didn't, like, why would they care? But they would take that with honour, and yet Dan Stug was like, oh no, let's not dwell on that. And you're like, but why would that matter? So yeah, it was a bit odd, some of that stuff. Incidentally, first Scottish Sontaran as well with Jonathan Watson. But he's 5'5", and I'm 5'4", and I was like, who would be an actual Sontaran sized? Because 5'5"'s big to me. Like, who would we have as a Scottish Sontaran? And there are literally only 2 actors I could find who are smaller than him, which is surprising because Scottish actors. And it was Ronnie Corbett or Wee Bob from River City. And I would have loved to have seen either as a Sontaran, alas, Ronnie Corbett perhaps by elimination, no. But
Yeah.
Wee Bob would have been an interesting Sontaran, I think.
Ria, any opinions on the scripting and writing?
I need a subtitle.
You need a subtitle. Oh dear.
It's quite rare for me to require subtitle to watch anything because like there's so many points that I kind of like what was that, like that. So for the writing, yes, I definitely because there's some point that you have to focus on the actions and also at the same time catching up what's on. So as non-English speaking, it's a tricky episode to watch.
You
So
said
sorry.
you need subtitles, and that's actually a good point to bring up because I think the music kind of overpowered some of the dialogue bits at times and
Yep.
made it difficult to understand. When I watched it for the second time, it was on iPlayer with the subtitles, which I always do just to make sure I catch everything because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in these episodes, and you've got to try and understand what they're talking about. And unless you're prepared to watch it 3 or 4 times and help the overnight viewing figures or the 7-day viewing figures, it's going to be difficult to get it, you know. So yeah, I understand from an English speaker point of view, a native English speaker, I actually need the subtitles to understand some of it because it was so much this exposition in there that it really is there. And I think subtitles is a valid point, even though you're saying it from a non-English speaking point of view. I think subtitles were valid at times for this. I don't know if Anthony, you agree with that or not?
Yeah, there were some points where it was so overpowering that you couldn't hear key like things. Like the beginning, the opening where they were flying through in their like jet broomsticks or whatever. And the Doctor keeps saying release, and there's a wee joke that she says, oh, maybe I did that in a Scottish accent. And then she goes, release. And I didn't hear her rolling R's because of the music. And so I was like, she's just saying release again. What's? I didn't hear the Scottish bit as well. So it was a bit empowering there. When the Swarm was talking about the division to the 2 division folk, I missed out the first time that he said the division because I think he just muffled it. But it was also, some of the sound was just, it wasn't exactly helpful on that mix. So yeah, hopefully it might be looked at in the next few ones instead to maybe not be as overpowering.
Yeah. The sound mix seemed to be a little bit better on the iPlayer version than the broadcast version. But then again, I was listening to the iPlayer version via headphones. That's possibly why I could hear it a little bit clearer. Plus, I had the subtitles. But I did think the sound mix was slightly better when you're hearing it with headphones than it would be through a speaker or a soundbar. So I don't think the sound mix has been 100% right there. And hopefully they fix that for the box set when it comes out.
They did have good music though for certain elements of it though. Like the Weeping Angel scene, the music ramping up the tension to that of
Yeah.
Trying to go to the door, try and get the key into the door, lose the key, and it built up in a way that wasn't too overpowering and too like hammy in your face Murray Gold, and it still was really effective. So there's good music there. It's just maybe mixing it well so your dialogue is priority.
Just a little bit, yes. I mean, the music from Sega Naganola is good as always. I mean, I've said multiple times when I've done my old YouTube videos that I'm so glad that Murray Gold is no longer there, because his peeps and parps by the end were getting a bit annoying for me, But Sega, he's not put foot wrong with his musical score so far. I just wish they'd mix it a bit better with regards to the dialogue so we can actually hear what people are saying. I completely agree with you on that one. Just one more thing I want to go over here, and I've left what I possibly think might be the best till last. The cameo appearance of Dan Starkey as the psychic Sontaran. Do you think that's a baton-handing moment to Jonathan Watson, or do you think he's going to be part of it more in the Sontaran War of the Sontarans next week?
That's a good question. Maybe he might be his leader in some form, and will appear maybe in some televisual sequences, in the Sontaran experiment, in that sort of way. But yeah, I think Jonathan Watson's going to just be the main Sontaran that we're going to be having. Again, you never know what they could be a wild mix. Weewob could actually be a Sontaran next week, and he'll have a fleet of similar small Scottish Sontarans with him in different scenes, but maybe he is passing on Dan Starkey. But he's done it a while. It's been 13 years he's been doing it.
Yes, that's right. 2008, and he's done a lot of Big Finish related stuff as well for it as well, not just Strax, but some Sontarans of other different roles as well.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, he might not want to be doing it anymore, but he's the one person who's been doing that throughout, each era. So.
He's like the Nick Briggs of the Daleks and the Cybermen. He's the one that you go to for the role,
Exactly. But I think Jonathan Watson was good. I thought he was quite a good earthy Sontaran, so if he's still around, I'm still fine with that.
I would love to see more of Sontarans. I love this potato bunch, and I particularly like, I would like to see. I agree with you totally, Anthony. That there could be more. There could be more to be reviewed yet about this.
Just overall final summaries from both of you. What are you looking forward to in the next episode? What do you think will happen in the Crimean War with the Sontarans?
I don't know what to say, but I hope there will be no more weeping angels. I'm sorry for those who love weeping angels. I just want them to just come one time off, and I have a really natural reaction to them since I watched it for the first time. The first time, they had a really great impact on my nerve. I don't know, never happened before. But yes, it's please no, or at least push it far back, and something like that. It's just sorry, but yes, that's my thought. That's my only thought right now. If I could think about that at 3 a.m. at this moment.
Fair enough. Slight spoiler. It looks like there are going to be more weeping angels, but I'm not going to say much more than that. Sorry, Rhea. Right. Anthony, have you got any final things to say about what your expectations are for next week's episode?
I mean, things I'm looking forward to be in next week's episode. Logopolis style TARDIS malarkey, which was also a thing with TARDIS bits here and everywhere and things like that.
Yeah.
Is that going to be addressed in any way next week? The Sontarans as well, just with Jonathan Watson, do seem genuinely quite an earthy sort of role, and I enjoy going to see what he'd be like. I don't know how on earth that will tie in with any other strands of historical interest that have been brought up for this whole set-up episodes, but yeah, I'm most enjoying stuff like that, Logopolis, TARDIS malarkey, the Vision stuff. Not looking forward to Vinda. Seems a bit pointless and arbitrary, and probably a shoo-in for some other character that they couldn't get for reasons.
Haven't mentioned Vinda because he didn't do much, to be fair. So there's not really a thing to talk about. I've mentioned more the Centaurans and the Weeping Angels because the Weeping Angels is the big baddie set piece this week. The Swarm development has been a little bit, and the Centaurans are next week. So that's why I've not really mentioned Vinda. But yes, Vinda was there. He did make an appearance. He escaped from his observation station. That's all we heard of him. So there's not much to Vinda yet. So that's why I haven't discussed that this week. But
but hopefully, with this one, Santarin's been there. It'd be fun. It's a fun romp. I don't see it connecting in any way whatsoever to the general stuff with the Flux. I think they're just there for chaos, and it's a nice episode away from the main plot. I don't think next week will focus a lot on the main plot of the Flux or the Division or whatever strand we'll find. But it'll be a nice entertainment romp, I'm sure.
Okay, well, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Ria, for joining in today. If you like this roundtable discussion, don't forget to hit that like button, of course. And if you like the channel as a whole, you've got other videos and reactions that we've done previously. I know it's been a while, guys, but we do we have had COVID time, so this is something new, and hopefully you've liked it. Leave your comments down below. Hit that subscribe button, of course. We will be here next week with a review of War of the Sontarans. And yes, thanks, guys, for watching. Links are in the end card and down below in the description. But until then, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you later.